So yeah, so my kind of, I've been doing training for about 15, 20 years. For the last, at least for the last 5 or so years, I've been concentrating on virtual training. Online virtual training is kind of interchanged. But obviously with today's environment, online training has become much more prevalent. And I basically wanted to talk about the importance of how to convert, in inverted commas, face-to-face training into virtual, and just some key things to think about. I mean, I could talk about this for hours, but I won't. As you can see here, there are some key points that I wanted to talk about, but I'm just going to skip over them. I'll let you kind of absorb them and take them in. But let me just quickly go through them. So don't try and just convert face-to-face to virtual. In other words, oh, we do an hour's face-to-face training, or we do half a day's face-to-face. Let's just turn on the cameras in the webinar and do it. Doesn't work. Please don't try and kind of think, oh, I'll just do that. It'd be easy, because you lose too much more than what you gain. And that kind of feeds into the second point. It's all about, for me, identifying what makes face-to-face great. And if you talk to people, and I can imagine most of you used to do face-to-face training, a lot of people talk about, oh, it's the little interactions you get, it's the body language that you can pick up on, it's the interactions in terms of kind of physically walking around the room and seeing people engaged and having exercises. And what I tried to do when I created my own virtual training from face-to-face is, rather than just kind of start from scratch and kind of go, oh, okay, what would be good, what would be bad, is I physically wrote down not just an agenda of what a face-to-face training was, but I broke out what the face-to-face training was in all its little bits. Everything from physically walking in the room to, you know, all the participants walking in the room, not just, oh, a break for 15 minutes, but what really happens in that break. What, you know, is it a case that people go out of the room, people stay in the room? How do you create, you know, how do you get people to go in a break? How do you get people to come back in a break? And then when you're doing exercises, it's thinking about, well, what is the aim of that exercise ultimately? What am I trying to get out of that exercise? Not just that it's, oh, it's a fun bit to do and it's a test or whatever. It's more thinking about the underlying impact of each of these activities, and then not saying, right, now let me create that in a virtual space. For example, if you've got a virtual face-to-face exercise that's, I don't know, that you break out into rooms and then you come back together, you can create that in a virtual experience. You can have, there are tools out there. We use WebEx training, but there is, you know, Adobe, there's, I think Zoom does it, there's GoToTraining, there are all these different tools that have that. But if you just go, oh, okay, I'll just do a one-for-one transfer, then you may be missing some of the intricacies that are actually getting the benefit out of it. It might be that that exercise was done to get people to talk with each other. Not necessarily the outcome was important, but it was more the discussion points. So it's rethinking how all these different intricacies work and then putting them back together in a different order, so to speak, in a virtual environment. Accentuate the benefits of virtual to the audience. And because too many times, and my apologies if people in the audience are the kind of the preachers of face-to-face is always best. Face-to-face has its place, but there are benefits of virtual that outweigh some of the benefits of face-to-face. I always think of it as a kind of one of those old-fashioned scales. So you've got all the benefits of face-to-face here, you've got all the benefits of virtual here, and some of that, sometimes it's going to be up, sometimes it's going to be down, but it's not just thinking, oh, these are the benefits of face-to-face, so that means virtual is bad. You know, there are other things that are better in virtual that are not good in face-to-face, and you've got to push that to your audience and say, this is really great. You don't get this in face-to-face. Tooling. Just make sure that you are, I mean, this is a good example of this platform. You know, you get technical issues, you get things that are not quite right. These kind of platforms need to be your new best friend. You need to be kind of, you know, as the kind of sounds like, at one with the tool, and that you know all the intricacies. You know that, oh, if that doesn't work, there's a workaround, so that the transition is as smooth as possible. And that goes into my next point: training and producing. Now, a lot of people think face-to-face training, you kind of need one person. It's very, very rare that you get two people in the room, depending on how big the room is. But with virtual training, and I think Wilson and John can probably corroborate this, is that you should have, at best, you could have three. So you have a host. So in this case, it's Nielsen as the kind of the hostess with the mostess, to introduce everything and keep everything going. You have presenters like myself, and then I only need to focus on my presentation. And then you have John, I'm not sure if you're the producer or not, but you have another person working behind the scenes, looking after the Q&A, looking after the interactions, looking after the chat, looking after annotations and activities and breakout rooms, so that there's so much that needs to be done in that area. And that's such an what's the word? It's just not really registered in this kind of day and age. It's something that we need to do better at, that facilitation side of things. Spread it out simply means a great online course, in my mind, should be spread out over weeks, not just 1 day or 2 days. And because it's a different, and this comes up to the next one, it's a different mindset. The mindset is all about, it is the individual and the self-responsibility and the self-development of the individuals to go into a training and pick out the little bits they like, get that resource that they like, get that video that they like. Oh, I'll jump into that live bit of the webinar and get my insights. I'll see what there's a Q&A on Yammer or on Teams or something like that, or Spark or whatever it is. And it's all these different elements that spreads out over a long time. And it may sound crazy. You think, why would you want to do a course over a period of a week or so? But it means the customer has a better experience. It may be harder for us as producers, but it's the customer that's the most important bit. And so, yeah, that's kind of my last point. Unfortunately, the slides kind of missed it out. But it's to do with the mindset. And the last point is simply the training is not yours anymore. It is the customers. It is participants. You've got to think, what kind of information, what resource do they need to get things the most quickest ways possible, the most effective way possible, rather than everybody come to me in my face-to-face training and I'll give you the information. It's not us anymore. It's all about them. And with that, I'll shut up.